What's going on YouTube? It's Teej back again with another video, and today we're on the Draft Network. They finally have the 2022 draft class available, so I am giving you an updated mock draft for the 2022 NFL Draft. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, hit that like button. It would help me, this video, and my channel out a ton. It would mean the world to me. And if you're new to the channel, want more football content in your life, want to talk some draft with somebody, hit that big red subscribe button. Help join the community. We're starting to climb our way towards 400 subscribers. It would mean the world to me if you hit that subscribe button. And comment your takeaways from this mock draft down in the comment section. Who's your favorite team? Who are some prospects that you think would fit well with your scheme? Or maybe some players you just like watching at the college football level. Love to talk some football with you. So let's talk about it down in the comment section. Without further ado, let's jump into it. The Detroit Lions, you know, when I was first contemplating this, running through some mock drafts, funny enough, I was thinking Malik Willis here, but he's had a couple of bad games, and I don't know. Edge is a serious need for this Lions team. You lose Romeo Okwara for all of this year. I also think corners in play here. Derek Stingley Jr. going to miss the rest of the year for LSU, so I think you jump on Kayvon Thibodeaux. You get the number one player in the draft class. And, you know, we'll see what happens with this Baker Mayfield contract situation. We'll see what the Giants do with Daniel Jones. Maybe the Lions try to swoop in and grab one of those younger quarterbacks. Or maybe it's just Goff for one more year and you try to find your quarterback the following offseason. I would just go Thibodeaux, just given I don't think there's any QB right now that I feel comfortable with taking at the number one overall pick. And the same could be said here for the Houston Texans. You could go quarterback. It's not the worst idea, but overall, I would go best player available, and I know he's not playing the rest of this year, and Derek Stingley's been falling down a few people's mocks. Still in the top 10, top 8, but down a little bit. Houston needs a cornerback. Remember, they traded Bradley Chubb earlier this season. They just don't have that CB1 of the future, and Thibodeaux or Stingley would help move that team in the right direction. If Thibodeau's there, I think he'd be a tremendous addition to that pass rush that definitely needs some help. But with Thibodeaux off the board, let's go Derek Stingley Jr. I'm going Evan Neal here for the Jags. Don't think they bring back Cam Robinson, but even if they do, Juwan Taylor has proven to not be a worthwhile investment. So if you keep Robinson, you can play Evan O'Neal at right tackle. He did that at Alabama. You could also play him on the interior. He did that at Alabama. So plenty you could do with Neal. He's a freak athlete, like unbelievably talented dude in regards to his size and athletic ratio. So I think this is a slam dunk pick there for the Jags at number 3. Then we get to the Jets, and this is a team that would really benefit from someone like a Kayvon Thibodeaux or a Derek Stingley Jr. And edge is certainly an option here. I wouldn't hate Aiden Hutchinson in the top 4. George Karlaftis could definitely be in the mix. But I'm going to go, again, best player available. I don't know about the Marcus May contract situation. I think that's still up in the air for both sides. So if May does decide to move on, Kyle Hamilton, I think a really nice replacement. It may be a potential upgrade long term, right? I mean, Kyle Hamilton can just do so much. And that's not saying Marcus May is a bad football player, not by any means. Kyle Hamilton can be your deep safety. He can come down from that deep cover 3, cover 1 position and make plays in the box. You just keep him in the box. He'll lurk. He can be a factor in the run game. I mean, there's just not much Kyle Hamilton can't do, and he does it all at 6'4", 220. Unbelievable. On to the Giants. This is where I have Aiden Hutchinson going. This team just needs a little bit more on the edge, and then I think that defense can start to get back to where it was last year. I like Azeez Ojulari. He's gone a little quiet as of late. Get Hutchinson on the other side, help him out, and then piece that defense back together once more. Plus, you have the Giants back on the clock here at 10. Then we get to the Eagles. And is this where we see them go in QB? Honestly, I think this team will end up waiting. Just because this quarterback class, there's always going to be QBs that, you know, go in the top 10. But I don't know if the Eagles are necessarily the ones that are willing to go out there and set the tone. You have Hurts, and Hurts is fine. Like, I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but on a rookie deal, he's not a bad bargain, right? Paying for wins. Hurts is, you know, a solid enough option there. So I think they address the secondary, and maybe 6 is a little high for Kaiir Elam, but I'm all about it. I mean, outside of Derek Stingley Jr., this guy is a cornerback 1 almost any other year. Elam is a stud, great size, great athletic profile. He'll be in the 4.4s, maybe even low or high 4.3s at the combine. Elam has it all. He's been locked down for Florida. You know, you have Steven Nelson on a 1-year deal. I think this makes a lot of sense for Philadelphia. Plus, Darius Slay is just getting up there in age. On to the Atlanta Falcons. Going best player available here. And I know DeMarvin Leal didn't have a huge game against Alabama, and he wasn't even going against Evan Neal that often. He just kind of underperformed in that game. But hey, A&M got the upset W. That counts for something. But DeMarvin Leal, you stick him next to Grady Jarrett, and he's a guy who can play on the interior or on the outside as an edge. I think in that Dean Pease primarily 3-4 base, you probably play him at that 3-4 end spot right next to Jarrett, and that could be a really formidable pass rush duo and help spark some positive progression. Plus, there's some young cornerbacks in the mix already for Atlanta. If Elam's here, I wouldn't hate it, but Terrell, when he's out there and on the field, solid. I know they've been banged up in the secondary as well, but I think they have some young cornerbacks to build with. They need to improve that pass rush big time, and Leal will definitely help do that. And then we get to the Washington football team. Could go tackle, could go safety. I don't think Landon Collins is all that good, so if Kyle Hamilton's here, that would be a perfect replacement. But I'm going to go quarterback, and I'm going to go Matt Corral. I think Malik Willis is still my quarterback one for right now, just given the upside that he presents. But I think Washington will ultimately move on from Ryan Fitzpatrick and be looking for a guy who they can play under center right away. And Matt Corral might be more of that than Malik Willis, at least how I see it right now. Obviously, all these takes are going to change and mold and form as the narratives change with them, and these player stocks go up or down based off the rest of college football season, the draft, combine, draft season, all that sort of fun stuff. Back to the Eagles. We went corner. Now let's go edge. George Karlaftis. They signed Josh Sweat to a 3-year extension. Fletcher Cox is getting up there in age. Brandon Graham getting a little older as well. Those are 2 big contracts as well, especially Graham. Maybe you could just move on from Brandon Graham at the end of this season. Play Karlaftis Sweat a little bit more on the edge. And you also drafted a couple D tackles, so maybe Cox is expendable too. But overall, they need to get younger. They are on that edge spot. So you go corner, you go edge, you're addressing some of those defensive needs. Don't think we're going to go linebacker with their next pick at number 13. But I think Eagles fans will like the direction I'm kind of envisioning for this team. Back to the New York Football Giants at pick number 10. We gave him edge earlier. Now I think you have to go interior offensive line. I'd go Kenyon Green. Green's been everywhere for A&M, and he's looked really, really good in that guard position, and he's been solid enough at tackle. I like the idea of him being just a Swiss Army knife, essentially, for the Giants. If Matt Pert works out, fantastic. You play Kenyon Green at left guard, and boom, that interior instantly looks way better, exponentially better. But maybe don't rush Matt Pert into a position that he's not ready for. Maybe Matt Pert just isn't a starting caliber right tackle. Nate Solder's playing over him right now, right? Or, well, he was at the start of the season. Now Solder's playing left tackle. Andrew Thomas is hurt. Anyways, Kenyon Green gives you the option to be potential right tackle future, or you could play him on the interior, where I think he will be stellar day one. So Green, I think, is worth being in the top 10 because he gives you that position versatility. And we're going to stay on the offensive line here for Carolina. And this could be Darian Kennard. I think Kennard ultimately probably plays guard. I think Akem Ekwonu probably in that same category, though he has been playing pretty good. Tackle for NC State. I'm going to go Charles Cross here. He's been that developmental piece for Mississippi State, and he is starting to hit his strides, and he's gotten better and better. Feels like a consensus top 3 tackle for a lot of people, and they need a left tackle of the future unless they really feel that Brady Christensen takes some strides forward towards the end of the year. Again, rhetorics are always changing, and then you can play Taylor Mouton over at right tackle. But until I see it from Christensen, I think left tackle is this team's biggest need, especially on offense. We're back to the Jets. So earlier in this, we went with Kyle Hamilton. So we got you a secondary piece. Now I think you have to go out there and get edge. And corner is certainly in play. You could go safety corner. I mean, I don't think there's enough corners that can go in the first round in this draft class, to be honest with you. I think I'll go edge here. Let's give him someone like Drake Jackson. He looks like an NFL pass rusher, and he's starting to pick up the production of late with USC. Also comes from one of those just, high caliber, a lot of tradition with it, programs in USC. So I think Drake Jackson will be able to take that step forward. Helps playing under Robert Saleh. Look at Carl Lawson back next year. You have a nice little edge duo there for the Jets on top of a solid interior in between them. Now we get back to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then at this point, you got your corner, you got your edge. You could go safety, linebacker, you could go get an interior offensive lineman. But I think this is a spot where you could feel comfortable going quarterback, and especially if it's someone like Malik Willis. Desmond Ridder has climbed up into the first round conversation. I don't know if I'm ready to anoint him as a first round QB, but let's go Willis here at 13 to Philadelphia. And it's a spot where I don't think he'll be ready year one. So you still roll with Hurts. And there's similar enough skill sets that it makes sense. Now, I could also see Jalen Hurts not being the guy in the prototype of quarterback that Nick Sirianni wants. We just don't know that yet because we've only seen him operate with Jalen Hurts. Maybe Washington goes with Malik Willis. They go the upside play here at 8. And I think Matt Corral, if Nick Sirianni isn't saying, hey, Malik Willis is my type of quarterback. Matt Corral could make a whole lot of sense as a guy who can push the ball down the field, has a little bit of mobility, but he's really just trying to be a field stretcher. Malik Willis is a cannon for him. I'm not saying he's not, but I think there's just more work to be done with his throwing motion and his accuracy overall. And Sirianni might just want somebody who's more ready to go right away. That point aside, QB as your third pick for the Eagles. I think that's the proper way to assess this class as I see it right now. The QBs just are not worth taking at number 6 or number 9. There's going to be QBs that go around that area, like Matt Corral at 8. But if you can go get 2 defensive cornerstone pieces in Kaiir Elam, George Karlaftis, and then still land one of the top quarterbacks in this class, I think you jump all over it if you're an Eagles fan. But if you are a Philly fan, let me know what you think in the comments section. Cincinnati Bengals, you could go tackle, you could go guard here. Because of that, let's get him someone who can play a little bit of both. Let's go Darian Kinnard. I think, again, he plays on the inside at the NFL level, but Riley Reiff's on a 1-year deal. Maybe they play Kinnard over at right tackle. Maybe they just finally decide to make the switch to Jonah Williams playing on the inside, though Williams has looked pretty solid overall this year at left tackle. So you're really looking right tackle or interior guard. I think Kinnard gives you the ability to do either one based off of what free agency looks like, what the market has in store. Maybe Reiff wants to come back, all those sorts of things that we just don't know yet. Pittsburgh Steelers, I think I'm going to go quarterback here. I'd love to see this team go corner, but I also think that in the second round you could get someone like a Jermaine Waller, a Noah Daniels, who's really good for TCU, and some of these other guys in the first round conversation might fall, like Roger McCreary. Spoiler, might not be in the first round of this mock draft, despite me wanting him to be in that first round conversation. Darian Kinnard is right at the end of this mock. I think there's options for Pittsburgh if they wanted to wait till round 2, which, by the way, my next mock draft will be a 2-rounder, so we'll see how those pieces unfold. I think Pittsburgh is going to opt to go quarterback, and I like Carson Strong. He'd be my quarterback 3 here, but I'll go with Sam Howell. He's put together some good throws. He plays in a very college-like offense, so I do worry about how that might translate, but at the same time, Matt Canada's offense in its truest form, you started to see it a little bit more against Seattle, more under center. Lots of motion, people running back and forth. Literally, same guy will run across the field, stop, go back the other direction. Non-stop stuff. And I think Sam Howell maybe does fit with that Pittsburgh offense that is coming from Matt Canada, who spent a lot of time at the college level, and it's very college-like offense in a lot of ways. So Howell could be a really good fit for Pittsburgh, but I would go Carson Strong. But quarterback, I think at 15 might be the most likely possibility unless the Steelers somehow got their hands on one of those veterans next offseason. Maybe Derek Carr's on the move, throw him in the mix. Jimmy Garoppolo probably on the trade block or cut by San Francisco. Maybe he's in the play. And if that's the case, then go cornerback for the Steelers. Speaking of corner, that's where I have the Patriots going here. Let's go Sauce Gardner. Maybe you make the case Andrew Booth Jr. is better. I wouldn't argue with it. But Booth, 6 foot, 200. Compare that to Gardner, a little bit bigger frame, 6'2", actually less weight, longer arms, taller height. Apologies. But Gardner, opposite of J.C. Jackson, I think there's a good size combination there. You have the 6'2", long, lanky guy, and then you have the playmaker who's a little bit smaller in Jackson. So really nice, formidable duo. That's assuming the Patriots do re-sign J.C. Jackson, of course. Washington football team, I don't know if Von Miller's coming back. And even at this point, even if he does, edge has been enough of a concern for this team without Bradley Chubb that I think it's worth addressing here. Now, I definitely agree with the Draft Network. Tackles in play here. Quarterback, of course, has to be something they're addressing. I think they're probably in the running for Aaron Rodgers, maybe the front runner still for A-Rod. So I'd go Najee Sanders, and if they do get A-Rod, they might not be in a position to be able to re-sign Von Miller, just how the money works. The cap is going back up this year, so we'll see. But even if Von Miller is back, I think it's worth adding another edge rusher because look at last week for Denver. 12 pressures, 6 come from Von Miller. They're just not getting it done from anybody else if Chubb's not on the field. So it's worth taking a guy like Najee Sanders, who in a lot of ways makes me think of Shaq Barrett. He's just this athletic freak. Might take a little bit of time for him to fully come together as an NFL pass rusher, but I still like what his potential shows it could be. Miami Dolphins, wide receiver is a need, edge is a need, running back certainly a need, so is linebacker, but I am floored that offensive tackle is that low on the Draft Network. I think that's going to be something that changes. Let's go Trevor Penning. This is an upside play, right? He's that guy who 6'7", 321, looks like an NFL tackle, has those long arms. The technical side is a little rough, and maybe he's not worth being in the first round yet just because he isn't a totally polished offensive tackle. If you wanted to go in the complete opposite direction, Nicholas Petit-Frere, I think he's a plug-and-play, ready-to-go tackle. Or you could go Sean Ryan. Ryan, to me, looks more like a right tackle. And, if they stick with left-handed Tua Tagovailoa, that makes sense as a blindside protector. Of course, Miami talking about discussing trades with Deshaun Watson. Looks like a deal might get done before the deadline. I'm recording this on Thursday morning, so if it happens, I am sorry. They pulled the trigger before I could re-record this. But they might not even have this first-round pick is what I'm trying to say. But if they do, Trevor Penning, I think you have to go tackle here. Try to keep Tua upright. The Las Vegas Raiders. Apologies, I'm just going on the LA Raiders. But the Raiders, I think Jordan Davis is a really nice addition. Davis doesn't see the field a whole lot for Georgia, but he's a fantastic run stopper. And I think there is room for him to grow as a pass rusher as well. So for years, I've been saying I want the Raiders. Like literally the last 2 years, I've been doing mock drafts heavily between my radio show and now the YouTube channel. You can go back and check out last year's draft content. I've been saying, go get that interior difference maker. Last year it was Christian Barmore. Now I'm saying it's Jordan Davis. Davis is different than Barmore. Barmore, definitely a really good pass rusher, lacking in the run stopping category. Davis is pretty much the exact opposite. No matter what, I think they just need a long-term star caliber presence, and Davis has the ability to do that. 19 might be a little high to take a nose tackle, but for what Davis can do to just stop the run, and I think his given upside as a pass rusher in between Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue, I think that's a lot of promising looks there for Las Vegas. The Minnesota Vikings, safety in place, sure, IDL, but to me it comes down to corner and edge. And I think edge is certainly in play here. I think Adam Anderson, Kingsley Enagbare, Zach Harrison, Nick Benito, I think especially in that 4-3, Nick Benito would be enticing. But I think some of these guys might fall in the second round. Like, again, spoiler alert, don't have Nick Benito in the first round, which is tough because he's a fantastic player. But go out there and get a shutdown number one corner. Pat Pete's looked okay this year. Don't know what Cam Dantzler is going to be because they just don't play him enough. Andrew Booth Jr. has the ability to be a cornerback one from day one, right away. And that's this team needs that. So corner or edge, tell me what you think if you're a Vikings fan. I'm leaning corner at the stance right now, but edge certainly wouldn't knock it if that's the direction you went. Let's get to the Tennessee Titans. They could also use corner. They could use a third wide receiver. They could use a variety of things. I'm going to give them a sideline-to-sideline linebacker in Nakobe Dean. When I originally did this, I had Christian Harris because he is such a good blitzer. But they already have that in Rashaan Evans, and I assume Jayon Brown probably isn't coming back after this 1 year, $5 million contract ends. Maybe they keep Evans as that true pass rusher of an inside linebacker. And if you take someone like Nakobe Dean, who's just the exact example of sideline-to-sideline speed for an inside linebacker. A little small, 6 foot, 225. But if Dean is everywhere, working from one end of the field to the other, that allows you to take more liberties and more freedom with Evans to use him as an extra pass rusher. And I think that's enticing. Maybe I'm just overthinking this. I'm trying to go big brain when I shouldn't. But I think Nakobe Dean is a good addition to that defense for sure. New Orleans Saints quarterback, definitely going to be a question. I'm starting to lean towards Jameis who's going to come back, but obviously a lot has to be played out there. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson here. He just has that freak athletic ability. I still like Olave a little bit more. I'm also really enjoying watching Jameson Williams play for Alabama. What a nice story he's been transferring from Ohio State to Bama. But I'm still go with Garrett Wilson. He feels like a lot of people's wide receiver one, and right now he's my wide receiver two. I still like the guy a lot. He'll run in high 4.3s, low 4.4s, great size, good route runner, solid hands, just a complete package in a lot of ways. And if you were to pair him up with Michael Thomas long term, assuming the Saints do keep Thomas, but if you don't keep Thomas, then you definitely want Wilson here. A lot of names I'm throwing at you now, but if you keep Michael Thomas, have Garrett Wilson, play Marquez Callaway as that third target, that is enticing for Jameis Winston if they do bring him back. Of course, we're all speculating on that as it stands right now, but I like Wilson for New Orleans. LA Chargers, I'm going to go edge. IDL could definitely be in play here. I just don't think there's someone worth taking here in the top 23, so I'm going to go edge. Let's go Kingsley Enagbare. You put him in that 3-4 edge rusher spot. I think Uchenna Nwosu played really well this past Sunday against the Ravens. I like him overall as a player, but at the same time, I'm not going to say he's a superstar by any stretch. Enagbare has the making of being a potential superstar level outside linebacker. And even if he doesn't hit his absolute peak, he's a really productive pass rusher, especially in that 3-4. Opposite of Uchenna Nwosu. You play both at that 3-4 end, and that is a really enticing front seven, especially when it comes to getting the opposing quarterback for the Chargers. I like Enagbare there at 23. Browns at 24. I'm going to stick with edge here. You could also go interior defensive line, but Malik McDowell seems like a nice addition to the mix moving forward for Cleveland. So I'm thinking Jadeveon Clowney replacement. And you know what? On the fly here, no, I was thinking Nick Bonito would be a really good 4-3 end here. I'm going to go Adam Anderson. I think Anderson's just a smidge better as it stands right now. Coming from Georgia, that defense looks fantastic. And maybe that's part of why Anderson looked a little bit better in my eyes than Bonito, because he's playing with maybe the best defense we've seen in college football over the last decade. That could certainly play a factor, but Anderson or Bonito, I think they'd both be fantastic fits. On to the Green Bay Packers at 25. I'm going to go with, you could go Treylon Burks, or you could go Drake London here. I'll go Burks. A lot of people like Burks a lot. He has, I give him credit, moved from that contested catch, big body, slot wide receiver, shades of the late Vincent Jackson. He's playing on the outside and he's creating separation. So Burks is climbing up my board, and he is really impressed me a lot this year for Arkansas. Outside of that Georgia game, again, that Bulldogs defense is just not fair. But Burks is your potential Devontae Adams replacement, and that's what I think ultimately is happening here, and that's why I'm making this pick. Even if he stays, though, they could use another wide receiver long term, especially if it's someone other than Aaron Rodgers under center, right? So no matter what, I think Burks is a safe pick here, but I see him right now as a Devontae Adams replacement. I don't think D. Adams is going to be coming back. Dallas Cowboys at pick number 26. Could go edge. I think they end up paying Randy Gregory. You also have Micah Parsons, so that is another factor in there. I'm going to go with Tyler Linderbaum. Now, Cowboys fans, I know it's probably not the pick you want to see in a mock draft, right? You're thinking, hey, maybe let's go get another corner, right? Trevon Diggs looks great, but let's go get someone else. Well, let's go get a safety so DeMonte KZ, isn't out there turning a 20-yard, big play for Nelson Aguilar into, a touchdown that sends the game into overtime. And I get that, but Tyler Biadasz has been the clear weak spot. I mean, go back to week 1 against Tampa Bay. Vita Vea single-handedly pushing that man back. I mean, he basically ends the play where Zeke Elliott started it. Now I know Vita Vea is the best nose tackle in football. I mean, and he does it at a high level as a pass rusher as well. So it's not fair to say, hey, you got pushed around by the best player at that position. I get it. But Tyler Linderbaum's a huge upgrade, and looking long term, I don't think Biadasz is a guy they look at and say, hey, that's a franchise center there. Linderbaum could be that guy. And it just continues to anchor that offensive line that's been really, really good. So I think Linderbaum's a center only, so you don't have a whole lot of flexibility there, but I think this could be your center of the future, and you're essentially your new Travis Frederick. And keep in mind how good he was, and that 1 year he missed the entire season for that scary neck injury. The offensive line overall took a step back. It was still good, but it wasn't elite. It wasn't the best in football anymore. Add Linderbaum, this is already one of the best O-lines, maybe the best in football right now. You add Linderbaum, it's scary to think how good that offense could get. On to the Arizona Cardinals. You could go edge here as your potential Chandler Jones replacement. I think they have got to re-sign Jones. Pay the man the money. He's been worth it. I know he's injured, but when he's on the field, he's absolutely worth it. 5 sacks against the Titans. I mean, that speaks to it. But I'm going to give him Trent McDuffie here. I really do like McDuffie. I mean, this guy is just as technically polished as it gets in college football right now. 5'11", 195, maybe a smidge undersized, but this is your cornerback 1. And the Cardinals defense is overperformed, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean you should just continue to roll out there and play that risky, right? Like, if you're seeing them overperform, maybe add some talent to that side of football to where that becomes the norm. Or if you continue to overperform, it gets that much better, right? So I like McDuffie as a clear-cut number 1 corner of the future for Arizona. On to the Baltimore Ravens. And I want to give a quick honorable mention. I really like Daniel Falele here. He is a project, and I think he's a right tackle of the future. Ronnie Stanley is out for the rest of the year, so Alejandro Villanueva is kicking over to play left tackle the rest of the year. It does look like they have a decent replacement already for Baltimore with Patrick Mekari. He's played pretty well so far, so maybe right tackle isn't even in play, but I think Daniel Falele would just be another great example for Baltimore taking this high caliber tools and traits type of guy and just being a player producing factory of sorts, right? Like, you just turn these guys with the ability to be really good, think Odafe Owe, and turning them into immediate impact guys. And I think Falele could be the right tackle of the future after, of course, Orlando Brown was traded this past offseason. But I've decided to move in a different direction. I'm going to go Jordan Battle. Deshaun Elliott was fantastic on Sunday against the Chargers. He was a big part of the Ravens pulling away, creating turnovers. He got the pick against Herbert. He was making plays in the backfield. And I think Deshaun Elliott is a part of that future But this is a team that runs three safeties a lot in that Wink Martindale scheme, and I think Jordan Battle is someone who's an upgrade over everybody else besides Deshaun Elliott. Maybe even long-term Battle is an upgrade up over Elliott. So Battle can do a little bit of everything. He can play in the box. He'll help in the run game. He's great in coverage. He's very instinctual. He's not a freaky, twitchy athlete, right? Like he's not a guy who's running in the 4.3. He's not like Kyle Hamilton with 6'4", 220 height frame, but he just gets the job done. Thank Xavier McKinney, former Alabama safety, now playing with the Giants, playing some good football so far this year. We're back to the Lions. Went edge earlier. I certainly could see corner in here. So if you're a Lions fan, Darian Kendrick, Roger McCreary, certainly in play here. You know, coming off of an Achilles injury, I don't know if Jeff Okudah will ever hit the ceiling that I thought was in front of him. Plus, he's just struggled outright. Amani Uruwariye, don't know if he's necessarily long-term cornerback for that team. Haven't gotten to see a whole lot of Ifeatu Melifonwu. So, corner is certainly in play here. I am going to go wide receiver, and we talked about him a little bit earlier. Jameson Williams. You could also go Chris Olave here. I wouldn't knock it. I'm going with Williams just because I want to talk about him a little bit. Otherwise, it's definitely Olave here. But Williams has been just such a nice story. Goes to a place, or leaves a place where he knew he was just going to be third on the depth chart at best, and then goes and takes advantage of the opening at Alabama. Mixed opening and opportunity there. But took advantage of the chances in front of it at Alabama, and he really has taken over that John Mechie role that we thought he would be. And Mechie's not a bad player. He's right here. And, you know, I'd still consider him, you know, top 10 wide receiver in this draft class. But Williams has been the rising star, and I think he continues to climb up draft boards. So Olave or Williams, try to get that big play, home run, downfield threat of the future for this Detroit organization. There's just a lot of holes, though. So if you went corner, I wouldn't hate it. If you went linebacker, I wouldn't hate it. If you went quarterback, you know, that could be interesting. If you saw something in Desmond Ridder, like Carson Strong, intrigued by Kenny Pickett, despite him being a little older, all that's in play. So I don't really think there's a whole lot of bad picks the Lions could make there at 29. Three more picks to talk about. Chiefs at 30. I think I'm going to go edge here. Wide receiver certainly in play. I just think there's going to be enough options available in free agency where they can go and, you know, get someone on a team-friendly enough deal, and that offense and Patrick Mahomes are good enough to just turn a league average to above average wide receiver into something even more. So let's go Zach Harrison. Really good athletic profile, coming from a program that just churns out elite level edge rushers. I don't know if Harrison's ever going to be as, you know, elite as the Bosas or Chase Young, but I think he could be a big time improvement, especially with Frank Clark. You know, what's going on with that situation? Is he on the field? I'm just talking big picture here. Is he on the field? And if he is, what level is he producing at? He's just a lot of question marks in general for this team. Even if they have Frank Clark playing good football, they need someone on the other end so you can play Chris Jones back on the inside, especially on early downs. So I think Harrison's a worthy addition. This team just definitely needs that extra edge rusher to try to make an impact there on their front seven. We get to Tampa Bay, and you could go IOL, add some extra depth there, but you took Robert Hainsey in the mid-rounds last year. Ike Ekwonu, definitely don't hate that. Don't love the value here. Perion Winfrey, not a terrible pick for Oklahoma. Maybe if we do a 2-round mock, Winfrey could be your Ndamukong Suh replacement, but you can also sign a 3-4 defensive end that's good against the run for relatively cheap. I'm going to go corner, and Darian Kendrick, Roger McCreary, take your pick. I'll go Kendrick. Done it at Clemson, now doing it at Georgia at a high level. And the reason for that is, I know, Sean Murphy-Bunting's not always going to be hurt. Jamel Dean is looking like a cornerback one, and he's not always going to be hurt. Carlton Davis is a cornerback one when he is healthy. But that's the point. You always have injury concerns with those guys, and eventually the bill's going to have to be paid for one of those guys, right? Like eventually Carlton Davis is going to want the massive CB1 contract, and you may pay him, but then what are you going to do about Sean Murphy-Bunting? What are you going to do about Jamel Dean? It's just good to have that next guy up. And Darian Kendrick, and especially we see cornerbacks sometimes take a year or two to really hit their stride. So what harm is it if Kendrick becomes that rotational outside corner? Maybe you get him in the mix on the interior. I think Kendrick gives you that versatility being a nickel or an outside cornerback. I think that's all in play. So why not have that guy ready to go for if Davis gets banged up again or Sean Murphy-Bunting misses time, and instead of having to call up Richard Sherman on 3 days notice, right? I think that's just a more favorable situation. And especially considering Tampa Bay is just such a complete team right now. There's not a lot of holes, and they have good depth. So just go ahead and put this resource in an area that allows you to limit what could go wrong, right? At this point, there's two things that could end the season for Tampa Bay. Cornerback injuries, and that's what we're starting to see. And if that continues in the playoffs, it's a problem. Or Tom Brady falling off and finding that ravine, that cliff that Max Kellerman's been talking about. I'm done trying to find when that's going to happen to Brady, so let's go ahead and patch up the other spot that could cause problems in cornerback depth. That's the end of my Buccaneers spiel. I apologize. And then we get to the Buffalo Bills. IDL, I think, is in play here. Ed Oliver still not necessarily the top 10 pick that Bills fans might have hoped he would turn into. I'm going to go Ike Ekwonu. He can be a tackle of the future, potentially on the right side. He's been playing some good left tackle for NC State, but I think if you play this guy at left guard, watch out. I mean, this guy's going to bully fools at the NFL level. I think he'd be able to do it pretty much right away. And I think that helps Zach Moss. I think it helps Devin Singletary. I think it helps whoever they think is their long-term running back. I think it helps Josh Allen a ton in pass protection and in QB sneak situations. Maybe we're trying to run through the B gap on the left guard side despite a pinch line in front of you from the Tennessee Titans. I don't know, just a crazy hypothetical I had pop into my head the other day. Anyways, that's going to do it for my updated 2022 NFL mock draft. Tell me what you think down in the comment section. Who do I have too high? Who do I have fallen too far? Who do I have not in the first round that you think should be? All those sorts of things that we can talk about. Who's your favorite team? What prospects would you want to see? Who do you like in college football? Everything you think of, I want to talk about it with you down in the comment section. So let's talk some football. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button. It seriously would help me, my channel out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, want more football content, like what you saw, want to see more of it, hit that big red subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.